So Kawasaki, Kawasaki, the motorcycle company, just released their new motorcycle. And let me say this, it's not a motorcycle.
I want to text this to you if you can please pull up this file. This is Manufacturing.
They prove their product in the American consumer market. They're knocked off. By whom? China.
Cheap labor became the drug of Western economies.
And welcome to episode 4 of The Next Move. I'm your co-host, Keegan.
Sandeep.
And roll. So, guys, we got a couple topics today. Robots in the factories, strange new mobility, concrete homes, IP theft, and global trade war.
All hot topics.
Sizzling like a bacon.
All right. So, first topic is AI breakthroughs are speeding up the development of humanized robots, but investors are still skeptical.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, right there, the big takeaway, just right off the bat, you see they're projecting about 40,000 robots by 2023, and then in the next 20 years after that, we're looking at 63 million humanoid.
You mean 2030?
Or sorry, 2030, and then 2050, 20 years later, 63 million.
Yeah, so 40,000 of these things, really?
In the next 5 years, I mean, in factories, we're already starting to see in places, right?
Right. Yeah, we're seeing them in the factory. So here's the thing, right? When Tesla initially came around, it's one of the first, I would say, is production line, EV supplier, So there have been other ones people can debate, but came out, the first year was like, oh yeah, by, 2025, I'm just making this numbers up, And like in 5 years, 2 years, we're gonna have this. We're gonna have these semi trucks. They're gonna, take over fleet for this XY companies and so on, and companies like California, or I would say company, but yeah, states like California. It is a pretty much bankrupt company, but yeah, states like California, they're like, 2030, we're gonna be basically zero emission, zero, all that. So I just in the same light. I don't think it's a little too fast for industry. Maybe it's
a subtle move, settling. How should I put this? Coming to it as in the robots. Start off with 5, 10, something like that.
It's what they test small, but I think we haven't tested them small yet.
I think this is showing that you're right. Yes, in the next 5 years, we really haven't tested it, but in the next 20 years after that, 25 years from now, we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I would say take maybe twice the time and twice the resources.
Yeah.
Well, let's this thing out. So here's one from BMW.
Yeah, it's a figure.
Yep. So to give me an idea.
I mean, that's skilled labor shortages. This is going to be a game changer in the future.
So it looks like it's able to put, robots put in a particular position. Wow. Okay. This is the first time I'm seeing this.
Really? No. So I seen an interview of this gentleman who owned a CEO of this company, and he's was basically same as any business owner. He was selling it. He was saying, hey, we have this AI function, or we have development of this, and we went from this level to this is how much improvement we have done, and he predicted a few numbers. And what I'm still thinking is it's gonna be probably twice as much time, whatever is predicted, because I get it, we're moving pretty fast in this evolution, I would say, of technology, but I still have my doubts.
So will robots be used more? I mean, obviously we're seeing it just on that. It's more of a hype situation, or?
Okay, not hype is being, I think the people, the companies and technology owners, they are optimistic like overly optimistic.
Yeah, well,
So
they
I mean,
sell
it's
it,
a
right?
real thing. It's a real thing. It's gonna happen. I think that on the timeline they are a little too overly optimistic. Because the reason is like anything that's invented so far, in my opinion, is been tested by government. So you talk about internet, you talk about planes, you talk about any that major innovation that happened, government tested it, and then it kind of went to private sector, in my opinion. But I don't know.
But I think you're already seeing the government start to use some of these things from a, military perspective.
Yes, but we haven't seen a humanoid in
That
In
we
factories.
maybe yeah.
in
not
that sense.
Yeah.
Maybe not
So-
that we've seen, but my biggest complaints is always, and it didn't really show in that video, but I believe it was sped up. So if you look at that video closely, it seems like they're always sped up. So it's always, they're slower than, a human doing it right now. Now
Yeah.
in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, do they have the mobility, the speed? Can they do it even faster? That's what's really going to be a game changer.
Well, then it kind of comes into what you're speaking about is options. So, do you want something that runs slower, or do we want to run something that's a little bit faster, maybe like Thomas Mobile Robot instead of this robot?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and there's factors I think like believe it or not, there's these some of these robots have servos, and those servos, if they're using magnet is one of the things that's is highly sought after, the quality of the magnet. The quality of the product is going to be as good as the quality of those magnets. And are we going to keep using those same technology? Are we going to go away from them? If you're going to keep using that technology, we're going to need to find better resources to fulfill all this need.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Sorry, don't want to cut you off, but there's a lot of, I think, other factors that affecting it is just not somebody saying, "Hey, I'm gonna build." Yes, you can build them, but how good they are to the application that you're building them for.
Yeah, and then having the resources to be able to maintain them and everything else. That's another.
And I think what you're seeing here too with what they're talking about from that article is from investor perspective, right? A lot of these companies that are limits and trying some of this stuff, I think what you're going to see is that they actually, it's interesting to me because I think they're going to try to build up a company to sell, right? Because a lot of these are just trying to get acquired, in my opinion. And they're going to say, okay, can a figure purchase our smaller company with our technology and integrate it there? And then you're going to see, just like kind of what we talked about last time with AI, is these bunch of different smaller companies siloing into 3, 4, or 5 major companies that are the real playmakers in this industry. Because right now you have so many different ones, and maybe that's some of the reason too why these investors are skeptical and investing more in humanoid robots.
And from I seen it like there's like a company that say, oh, they raised $50 billion for whatever technology, and what I heard is when they say they raised 50 billion, it's not like they have investors like, all right, so here's the $50 billion cash.
Sitting in
we
cash in
sending
an
sending a number X, Y, and 1, 2, 3. No, it is just they're saying we are promising to you to 50 billion if you are able to deliver that.
Yeah, and speaking of the robot side of it, we're kind of talking about maintenance programming and all the good stuff, and probably investors like, okay, which one do I invest in because vulnerabilities and whatnot. Am I going to get
goal is to
screwed
get
over?
bought out for most of these companies, I think, right?
Yeah.
As an investor, you want to get acquired, right? You want to 10x your money, 100x your money, your investment. So it's also strategically finding the right company at the right time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of right company, right time, this kind of rolls into the next topic, or still with robots. So, I'm sorry, guys, right here. Unitree had an issue.
Issue.
Yes.
But I don't know about this one, so.
Security researchers discovered a back door in Unitree Robotics Go 1 robot dogs, allowing unauthorized access to live camera
wow.
feeds and location data. The vulnerability, listed as CVE 2025 2894, raised concerns about potential foreign surveillance, particularly from China. U.S. officials including Representative John Mulanar, called it a national security threat. Unitree claimed that the issue stemmed from a third-party cloud service and has since been disabled, Axios has reported. Newer models like the Go 2 reportedly feature upgraded security.
So,
So interesting.
well, this is a challenge that I've been concerned for a while. That when we are, I think we talked about it last time, is where why are we having all this technology from a country, and on one side we're doing a trade war, and this on the other side we are trusting that anything that's coming from that country is gonna be safe and
properly vetted.
and vetted, and so these things. There's a gentleman. He's basically we'll basically try to get his video next time, but he talks about like hacking, how easy it is to hack with literal USBs and even an internet cable, or not your phone charger cable.
Yeah.
And he talks about it, and he brings a lot of those things to different podcasts. And
So here's a great question for you guys, and this is something that I always ask myself when new technology comes into play. Should there be regulations on these robots, and also should there be regulations on what they physically can do?
But should there be some regulations around that? Should there be some rules of
some
engagement
ethical, yeah. So that's one part of it. So I went to this one conference meeting, whatever you want to call it. They had a safety, basically in a robotic world. They had a gentleman who talked about safety. One of the things he talked about is a cybersecurity, and he basically talked about it. He mentioned it a little bit in he didn't go into details, but he said in manufacturing, that's gonna be a next big thing is a cybersecurity because you have. He talked about like there was one of the companies here, and their whole office was shut for 48 hours, but their manufacturing side, the manager or the person who was in charge on the manufacturing side was knowledgeable enough to separate their network from the office to the manufacturing side.
Yeah.
So that way they were able to protect that side.
Well,
but with sorry, do you
No,
want?
I was gonna say that's to me when you as a programmer, you always look at things like, okay, if this thing fails, I want to make sure it fails safe, and that's what you're alluding to. Everything's going to fail at some point in time, but you got to make sure it fails safe.
Right, but you seen like there was a big hospital in Kalamazoo. They basically were held hostage with a ransomware and it took that hospital down. Quality went down after that.
Yeah.
They have to pay millions to get it back up, as far what I heard or read, and they had to get that up. So same thing. Similar situation. They said, oh yeah, it was a cloud issue. It was whatever X, Y, and Z. But here's the thing: is how can we trust that there is not a sleeper chip in there? Mm-hmm. There's not a sleeper code or program that can be activated. And if
what about all the home robots that clean your floors and stuff like that?
Yeah.
They literally mapped out. I was stunned. I didn't even know it mapped our entire house the first day we got it, and it labeled every room. It knew what each room was. So now if somebody has that information, and say I'm a high-level ranking official somewhere, they know where my house is, they know the mapping of the house, they know how to get around the home.
and they record. Some of them record audio, some of them record video.
I mean, so
Are these connected to the internet, to the Wi-Fi?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So this could be used for nefarious uses by a country, and
I think it's a bigger reason that we need to have technology that being especially in a critical infrastructure, a critical manufacturing, that all need to be embedded within U.S. The companies are from U.S. and they have their.
I know what you're saying. Basically, okay, is something I was going to bring up. So I prefer to do things in a closed loop system.
I'll jump in and say it depends on what the
system.
product is.
So you're,
right? It
you're
depends on what the
emphasizing
area is. If
U.S.
they're right for the
closed loop
regulation, right?
system.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we
Keep
talked about
everything
last time is
in-house.
you have,
Don't let it get out.
Civilian
So
police forces.
yeah,
now
to me, I would have
using
never hooked it up to
robot
Wi-Fi
dogs
because I don't
with,
want to get
you
the
know,
information
guns,
out.
weapons
But
attached on them.
So
in
those are
essence,
more
it's the same
ethical
idea,
games,
the same
right?
application. You want it in-house. U.S. companies that have this technology should only be allowed in the
Wasn't
U.S.
there an attack last year or something on like a water treatment facility where it shut down for a while? I remember reading somewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
so I mean,
I think
stuff
it's
like that is
it's a
gonna
big
happen,
challenge. That's
and countries are going to continue to probe at us, right,
Yeah.
from outside, whether that's your China's, your North Korea's, your
so help.
Russia's.
Sorry, I'll cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, there's the health system. I'm talking to one of the gentlemen who works in the tech side. We were talking, and he said there's like thousands. He talked about how many thousands, I can't remember right now, for that attacks every single day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, I was going to say back in, I think it was, we're trying to think, back in my days in college.
We're going way
'cause-
back then.
Yeah. Well, just to give you guys an idea.
1900s.
Yeah, 1900s. I think it was around 2008, guys.
Not that old. So when I was in college.
So we
Head of security in software side for the technology side for the hospital, and it's a big hospital.
created a senior design project, a home automation system. So we wanted to prove, and this was before smartphones, we wanted to prove that you could get a text message, somebody tripped off a motion detector. So we were trying to get access, let the school to have us access for the Wi-Fi, and they were like, well, we can't. We can allow a bridge within, the Saginaw Valley, networking system. He goes, man, we get 2 million attack a day, and that was like back in 2008.
Wow.
So I can't imagine what they have to do now to protect the school, protect the data, protect everything, because now there's,
Yep.
Yeah, and
people do this for a living.
Yeah, and
Well, Robert
hackers.
could write an AI code to keep attacking.
That's what I'm saying. They can build an AI agent, and that agent is basically learning people's their security features, of how they're blocking it, and just keep on building upon it. So how to hack it? So there is bigger threat. I think this should be like one of the highest priority of current government or the future governments of U.S. that we need to. If you're building a system, that system need to be somehow the companies who are building it, they need to be within
based.
U.S. because at least if something goes wrong, you are able to summon them to the Congress and ask them.
Well, and I think that's going to be the next, global war. It isn't necessarily going to be fought, with guns
It's not
and
gonna be bullets,
troops on the
it's-
ground.
there's-
I can disrupt a whole country if I can shut down your power supply, stop your water, and shut your internet off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
mean,
hold your hospitals.
how many people
hold your
do you guys
hospitals?
know
Or
that-
start driving my car away.
Yeah, how many how many people? Yeah, you can't get gas. How
Yeah.
many people could live for a week, right? It's
Well,
gonna be hard.
actually, kind of, yeah, this is kind of a touchy topic, but I did see
Nothing's
something.
too touchy for us
Well,
on this.
I think it was the UK. They were actually giving out, put out little small videos on make sure you have a 3-day
Survival.
supply of. Did you hear about that? Or
No,
is it-
no, I haven't, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, that's where when
I
I grew up,
think
we were taught like that. Just because
Michigan, I think Michigan
tornadoes.
is kind of in our blood how to kind of survive because of the winter, and so we are more trained than some of the other states. And I
We're more
usually
depressed.
so I usually joke about it. I'm like, if it ever comes to there's a we have to put a fence around Michigan. We got all the resources here.
It is a
Yep.
good spot, right? We're not on the
Yeah, we
east
got
or west
water and
coast.
everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, fresh water, plenty of wildlife, and
Yeah.
plenty
Not too
of
many major cities.
yeah, we're good. But I know we're going a little detour there. But I'm still the security. I think is we really need to embed this, and my recommendation to the companies is to not to just go for the cheapest option, and
Pick some in-house
and make sure
or
there's
country.
what's at stake. So that's pretty much the closing comment on that.
All right. Well, next topic, guys. Speaking of homes and having how should I put this? Speaking of homes, she brought Sandeep, and you can use this nifty 3D printer. Let me get this backed up. So I found this interesting.
That's tall.
18 hours to create this.
How tall is that? Did it say?
These are huge robots. Look at this.
Concrete,
Imagine getting a
concrete
house
mix
built.
and then painting up, or printing the wall. Wow. Now it looks like they're still putting some steel beams across it, but
Yeah.
and they got to be filling in the inside with, something to keep the heat and cool out, right?
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, there you go. That's a better picture. Yeah.
So I
Wait.
see these videos a couple of years ago as well, and it was a big thing. And there was a company out of Texas, and was building 1,600 square feet houses, and
3D printing like that with concrete. Yeah.
with the concrete,
I mean, that's a 1,600 square foot house.
and it was
That's-
like 48 hours or something like that, or 24
I was
hours.
gonna say,
It
that's
was,
incredible.
but I think now it's getting to the point where they are shooting like even bigger buildings or bigger houses, and this is it's gonna be needed.
Well, let me ask you this. So, would you consider that what you just saw a breakthrough, and kind of the same topic as in will codes catch up to this? I'm building a home.
Yeah, structural codes.
Yeah.
Well,
and
that's
then-
what I was kind of wondering as I'm looking at that is, it looks like there's some rebar in there or some small rebar.
Yeah.
But what's the insulation? What's the other stuff mixed with that concrete to secure that building?
So I think this may be a little more error proof, in my opinion. So because once inspector inspect the thickness of the concrete or the level of the concrete, and then applying that concrete consistently and in X amount of time, I think it's better.
But
than,
when you do a slab, though, which I'm actually working on this week,
You need a robot?
When you,
Yeah, I got
don't
my
have
robot
one,
for you.
and maybe help me level it. But you got to mix it, and so if you look at that, they're just laying the beads on top of each other.
right.
How structurally sound then is that going to be between each layer, right? Where you don't have like a normal sheet. You'd put
So-
boards down on each side, and it'd be one solid wall, whereas this is a bunch of small lines.
So
Right.
think of it this way: putting a bead of glue together, right? Once you put one bead of glue and you put a second bead of glue on
Yeah,
in a
adhesive,
timely
yeah.
fashion.
That would be okay, but
So
I just
concrete is the same thing. That's why I say in a timely fashion, right?
Yeah.
So it's not too dry. Oh, I know we're getting a little too technical in it, but it's not too dry. But it's putting the bead in, and in a timely fashion. I think I don't know. I like the idea.
Well,
I love the idea. I
I'll
just-
live in that house.
Probably
Don't
the
know
real
how
question is to you guys: would you actually buy one?
a cottage up north, maybe that was
not a primary house.
500 square feet.
I would. I'd
you'll
rather
make
have I'd rather have a concrete brick house than what do we have.
No. Buy a 3D printed house like that. Would you
I
guys
would buy that 3D
and live
printer
in
and
it?
build the houses like
But
that.
I think you're on a good point though too, whereas it may not be as popular here in the States because we build all of our homes out of wood.
Hmm.
But when you go to Europe, everything over there is all concrete homes, right? The walls
Even
are
here, right?
concrete.
You go towards California. You go towards where the snow is not really a factor, and they have flat roofs or shingle, like they have the other material
Yeah, like-
roofs. Yeah, in Florida they have flat roofs, and these be a little more hurricane proof than what do we have now? I don't know.
so?
I'm sold on this guy. I don't know about you guys.
I'll be
buy
honest
one.
with you. Well, because I had a new built home, and there's some parts of it I love, and there's some parts of it I'm like, gosh, I wish I'd stuck with it. So, for example, the one thing I don't like is the kind of the Lego block basement where they got these pre-made slabs and you put them all together. That's something I wish I never went with. So that's why I'm like, sometimes I guess you say older is better, or the way it was done before. Kind of one thing that kind of sticks out to me. I have a friend that, he's probably about 80 years old now, and he's done filtration for years. And he's like, he goes, man, I work with all these kids. They come up with all these different ideas how to do this. And he's looking at it. He's like, that won't work. That won't work. That won't work. And they're like, why? And he's like, because I did all of it. I did all of it 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I tested all this stuff. This works. So that's kind of I guess you say the idea for me is, you know what works. Just stick with it.
Yeah.
Not saying that 3D printing is a good or bad idea. It's just, I don't know. I guess you say prove it itself out. Let's see what happens.
Maybe it has its purposes. in
Yeah,
certain
there's some
spots,
things
right?
that's.
I
Like
think
that,
it
for
came.
me, a small
I
cottage
don't
would
know.
be-
I'm for 3D print, so I'm gonna fight you guys on this. And so
Well, I should rephrase it. For the house part of it, I'm a little skeptical. And there's other stuff.
Yeah.
Like
I don't like the reliability of on other people. So in my opinion, if I can have
3D print it.
3D print it,
Unless the guy pouring the bags of sand messes up the mixture.
no, you don't even have to. You just call the concrete company. You tell them like, bring me a truck. That's what they're doing.
Somebody's
That's
got a
what
local bot, yeah.
That's what they're doing. And they have a hopper, and the concrete company just dumps it in that big hopper and then just loads it up.
Yep.
What I didn't understand, though, either is how they move that around, right? Because clearly it's an industrial robot sitting on thing. It's not a smaller cobot. There's probably some wheels on it and stuff to move it around.
It's
but
an a rail.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
I didn't really
from
see
what
where that was.
It's on a
but
rail.
To me, it looked like it was, they move it and then move in a certain space, and then
They
it runs
build
the
a wall.
program.
Okay.
It looks like the same program to me.
I seen this one. They like I don't know, like we can say it ABB. They're using in this one. But I seen the other ones where they basically have a big hoist, like they have this. It's not even a industrial arm or anything. It's basically a gantry system.
Yeah,
And it's
I might have
built,
seen something
yeah,
like
like
that,
a gantry system, and it's built out, builds the whole thing. And depending on how big a house you need, you just set up
And a
that.
gantry system seems more reasonable, right? If you have a square house, rectangular house, we can set up a gantry and just slide back and forth, and you can cover almost the whole span of the home. Whereas here, it's a lot more labor intensive.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah, I mean,
so
everybody
maybe
testing
we learn
their-
from this,
yeah.
and we say, hey, maybe gantry XY
Yeah,
axis is a heck of a lot easier than we don't need all six.
Yeah, we don't. I don't think we need 6. So in that, it's just a gantry system, and I don't know. I may in the next few years you will see me building one.
We're gonna go test out your house,
I
bud.
was just say I don't want to be the first one overnight there.
I will build a chicken coop first.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, let's see. Next topic is global manufacturing, IP theft, and economic reality. So,
That's a big hot topic right now.
yep.
Oh,
Oops. I don't know why this kicked on. It's our buddy, Mr. Vance.
All right.
There were two conceits that our leadership class had when it came to globalization. The first is assuming that we can separate the making of things from the design of things. The idea of globalization was that rich countries would move further up the value chain while the poor countries made the simpler things. You would open an iPhone box and it would say designed in Cupertino, California. Now, the implication, of course, is that it would be manufactured in Shenzhen or somewhere else. And yeah, some people might lose their jobs in manufacturing, but they could learn to design, or to use a very popular phrase, learn to code. But I think we got it wrong. It turns out that the geographies that do the manufacturing get awfully good at the designing of things. There are network effects, as you all well understand. The firms that design products work with firms that manufacture. They share intellectual property, they share best practices, and they even sometimes share critical employees. Now, we assume that other nations would always trail us in the value chain, but it turns out that as they got better at the low end of the value chain, they also started catching up on the higher end. We were squeezed from both ends. Now, that was the first conceit of globalization. I think the second is that cheap labor is fundamentally a crutch, and it's a crutch that inhibits innovation. I might even say that it's a drug that too many American firms got addicted to. Now, if you can make a product more cheaply, it's far too easy to do that rather than to innovate. And whether we were offshoring factories to cheap labor economies or importing cheap labor through our immigration system, cheap labor became the drug of Western economies. And I'd say that if you look in nearly every country from Canada to the UK that imported large amounts of cheap labor, you've seen productivity stagnate. And I don't think that's,
Yeah, I don't.
So,
I don't
yeah.
have anything to argue with that.
I mean, that's the thing, keep the whole political thing on aside, and you sometimes you just got to go to the common sense. No, not the matter who's saying that. Just if somebody's saying something common sense, you gotta give that a credit. You gotta give. So it is. I mean, we basically what we did. This is the one aspect of it where what we done is we taught the whole world how to build
And manufacture.
and everything, which is great. We did the community service, I would say global service.
Well,
But if the thing is, if we did the global service to teach the world how to do it, but now because of that, our own house is getting repoed or foreclosed because we did a global service. We need to kind of come back to house and fix it.
So here's a great question for you guys. Now, we obviously we lived through some of this, as in a lot of this stuff happened before we got into the working world. But now the real question is made in the USA just a branding? It's just branding now, or is it something real?
It's the quality.
Yeah, if you can actually do it and bring it back.
I think it's the quality. I think
There is still, you're right. There is still that attachment of this is a higher quality product, but
I don't know. For me, it's more than branding. It is a security. It is a brand. It is a economic, national security. It is everything above. It's not a matter of that little sticker with our American flag on it. It's way more than that. I think it's where security for the future. I mean, are we gonna go in a circle and we taught the world how to do things? That's great, but now we're going back to horse and buggy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, actually, I'll bring this out. I know we talked about it offline, but I was talking with a gentleman from China, and the conversation was pretty much, hey, do you have any issues buying something from China? I said, well, not really. You kind of see it everywhere in the U.S. And he goes, oh, you know what's funny? He goes, when he was visiting the U.S., he wanted to take some souvenirs home, for his family. I guess a little, doll or something it says made in USA. And he goes, he looked on the back, everything said made in China. Everything that had USA label on it was said made in China. And I'm kind of like, dude, you could just hit customs up, and when they ask you what you're claiming, you're like, well, I'm just taking it back home. Because you literally are.
I mean, true. So just to kind of play on continue that aspect of it, I remember 99, 98, maybe 97, somewhere around there, just late 90s. If you went to these big box stores, we went to just convenience stores, gas station, whatever. They had this little section, and that would have these cheap lighters, cheap toys, cheap, it was called cheap stuff basically. And it was something you bought it now and you didn't care if that thing broke by the time you got to the parking lot.
Yep.
You didn't care. And that was called made in China.
Yep.
Everything else in the store, I want to say not 100%, but let's say 70, 80% was made in US. And that meant quality.
Yep.
Even food, everything. Now,
I'll say, but now.
now
Now
that little shelf is made in US, the entire store is made in China. And which is, again, it's great business for China. I have nothing against them because they did great.
Yeah.
It's our fault.
Well,
But how it's difficult to compete with that, right?
Well, it is, but I mean, if you're gonna compete with that, we have to kind of put up. We can't be, expecting dollar items
Yep.
and that disposable items, and still saying, well, we need to have that made in U.S.
well, you bring up a great. You kind of spun this in. So, this is something the PBD brought up. I think it was last week. This was very interesting
Texas,
to
if
me
you can please pull up
because
this
I
file.
wasn't aware
This
of
is
this.
manufacturing, global manufacturing 2000. Look where we were at. 25% of global manufacturing came through us. Look who was second. You got the bottom left, MBA 21%. Then you have UMC. Is that UMC or UMIC? Then you got Japan 11%, Germany 8%, and then you have China at what percent? 6%. What happens in 2001? China gets welcomed to join the World Trade Organization, manufacturing. Now we're going to go to China. Then look what happens 2030. 45% of manufacturing goes to them. Look where we are, 11%. We were at 25%. This is jobs in the US. China was 6. China goes to 45%. We dropped to 11%. 11%.
11%, dude.
That's incredible.
So-
and that's only 20 years. They cut our
From
production
2000 to
50%.
now.
Yeah.
So here's the
Or
other
25
thing, right?
years, yeah.
Here's the other argument. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Everybody's have their opinions, and obviously I have mine. And the thing is, like, people saying, oh, cheap labor, cheap this, in China, but they're automating that stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
this
there's
is the
a lot,
other crazy
yeah.
part. So since China joined the global trade organization, so look at manufacturing jobs from the year 2000. We were right around 17,000, just above 17,000,
And fairly consistent.
and then now where are we? Well, I should say this. I think this is 17 million. So my bad. And then now down to like under 13 million, 1290 as of today. $12 million jobs. You went from $17 million jobs to 12, almost just under 13 in 25 years. So that's manufacturing jobs. That's not including, all the businesses that were surrounding, like, for example, plants.
Yeah.
That's not including
Those
the
diners
restaurants.
that went away.
Yeah.
Yeah, clothing, all the small suppliers that supported those plants. So this is,
What do you know? We did have that bottom in 2010.
I think that was the crisis. And then we
Yeah,
started,
So then, what was our thought there? Do you think we
Why-
need to start bringing some reshoring?
I think
some
automation.
stuff,
Well,
bringing in more automation.
I think automation kind of start happening, and the companies, sorry, I don't, I know
ahead, go ahead.
you got a thought. Ford just put out. Hey, if you guys want to sponsor us, let us know. Hey, so Ford just put out that their 4 or 5 cars that made in U.S. That just didn't happen overnight.
yeah.
Yep.
That's I was since, I don't know, 2010. It been happening, right? I'm just making that up too, but I'm just saying it happened over time. That they start having and assembly and made in U.S. So it didn't happen overnight, but companies are learning. I think COVID was a big wake up call.
And there you go,
what
right there.
Yeah, so this is exactly what you're talking about. Cars made in USA, 70% Ford. I was surprised Tesla's at 100%.
Well,
Well, it's got what
That's not-
Fremont and
57%.
in Austin. right?
Nissan and GM are tied with 52%. Looks like Toyota's at 48. Hyundai, sorry, 33%, and Volkswagen at 21. That's crazy.
yeah. So, I mean, that's again, I'm just saying is that
So
we're
you're saying we should all go buy Teslas? Right
No.
now?
Okay. Political everything aside, I'm never been a fan of Tesla. For me, I like solid car. I like where if I knock on it, it makes a little noise, you know. And the Tesla, and knock on it, it bends in. You know what I mean?
You hear
not
the plastic.
yeah, it's plastic. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm still that where I can take a hammer and freaking take a dent out. Sorry, I'm still that guy. So, yeah.
Right. So I know Keegan brought this question up earlier on. I wanted to hit it up, and this is kind of, I guess you say, my theory. So obviously this went from 17 million jobs manufacturing all the way down. This is when the economic crisis hit in 2008, 2010 range.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden this number started going up. I think what it was, in my opinion, is that, the market was crashing, and it crashed, and they're like, okay, how do we reset this?
How do we
And,
recover?
probably it was like, hey guys, you need to bring some more jobs back here. You're letting everything go. I mean,
Yeah.
look at this.
I mean, that's just,
And
that
I
right
think
there is
that's why
incredible.
they start, okay,
So-
we need to trend up.
98, 99, that was when that we start shutting down pretty much everything here, and start sending all these jobs to China, Vietnam, wherever, right?
Yep.
Good example is Kalamazoo. They had a big GM plant over there. They shut that down. Right now there's about 20, 30 different. They made it where, like, I don't know, business park now. There's like 20, 30 companies in there or whatever. But the point is, how many people that employed in that area?
Yep.
How many people, all the infrastructure, all the gas station, all whatever around it, right? Schools, everything get affected.
Yep.
And so my opinion, yes, you can have your own political opinions, but no, I think we still need to have products that's built by U.S.
Yes.
companies or built for U.S. companies.
Yeah.
And
You brought up a great point. So this leads to the next video, man.
okay, just for reference, I didn't watch single one of these videos before. So, and
Every
this
time.
this is
You already
this is not planned at all.
Yeah. I think these guys are sponsored by somebody else.
Yeah. Right. How did you?
So do you want to know the part that they're not telling you about tariffs? Here's the reality that nobody's talking about. Nobody. This lighter costs $25 in America to buy an American-made product.
Oh.
Okay? China makes one, sells it for $20 here in America. Out of that $20, $5 goes to whoever in America sells it. $15 of it goes back to China. You buy the $25 one in America, all $25 stays in America. So now we want to say, let's balance this out, and we're going to put a 50% tariff on Chinese goods. Now this lighter costs $30 to sell in the United States. Now you have the U.S. made one at $25. It is cheaper. It's more expensive in the big picture, I get it. But it's now cheaper, so people are going to buy the American made one. 100% of the $25 that you spend stays in America. Stays here. The demand increases for that business has to hire employees. When many businesses hire employees, that creates a supply shortage of employees, which make wages go up. Is this more expensive for the consumer in the short term? Yes, but you're getting a better product.
Yep.
You're getting a better product for your money, and the money is staying local. Okay, you're not funding these other countries and their businesses. That is the purpose behind all of this. Will we have a recession? Yes. Will prices go up in the short term? Yes. But the lagging effect is all of that money now stays here with us. It's not leaving the country, which gives us more money in the United States to go around for everybody. Of course, every nation in the
Once they get you hooked up, and now you gotta pay,
yeah.
premium price for it.
And
So-
I heard that the U.S. too is like the world, like half the world's consumer, population,
Yeah.
right? So,
So
buy
I
a lot
think-
of junk.
Well, we
Right.
do. Then we have garage sales, right?
Oh, let's throw it away.
Yeah, and somebody
They
else
throw-
buys our
people
junk.
Throw it away, right?
No,
I mean, let's
people
be
buy
honest.
other junk.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Most of that ends up in landfills, and we buy, new phone every year, new clothes every year, new shoes right? I mean,
And
so
recently,
this-
I was part of
churn
that.
it
And
out.
recently, I stopped doing that. Is buying new phone every year. And in the last maybe 3 years, 3 or 4 years, I stopped doing that. And I'm like, why I'm doing this?
Yeah, but if you don't buy a new phone every year, you could probably afford to pay a little bit more for one that was made here. Right?
Yeah,
'Cause you're not
that's
buying
what I'm
one
saying.
I
every
hate to
year,
ask,
you're
is
not-
there a phone made here? Like, I mean, it's just Android and
Yeah,
iPhone.
Probably not.
The only one I could think of,
But I know that's the big issue right now is right. They're talking about, oh well, your iPhone's going to increase $100.
No, they're saying
or-
somebody did out some crazy math. I don't know how true that is. Like they talk about like $3,500 for
yeah, $3,000 or something
iPhone.
like that.
I mean,
And-
which is insane. But
But again, if I
Some-
buy a $3,500, sorry,
Well,
if I buy a $3,500 phone, and that's gonna last me, 5 years.
in the first American company that figures out how to make a phone for $1,000 here will go off the shelf.
well, it's kind of his point. If they put the tariffs on, let's say $3,000 costs an iPhone. Now people are going to look into cheaper options. So there's, I
Flip
think
phones?
one company. Well, no.
Bring them back. Call it the
Ubuntu.
next
Radio,
beep.
radio.
No, Linux sells phones as well, like Ubuntu. So would people start looking into that? And might be safer, might be like, it's to your point, everything's in-house, it's made in U.S.
So here's the other thing. So phones are not what they used to be, right? We're calling it
No.
phone, right? We calling it like we make calls. How many
Yeah,
calls you make a day?
None.
None.
Okay.
Well-
They don't actually use the phone, right? They use it for
Here's,
everything else.
here's my thinking process on that. Your new car has a Wi-Fi, right? Everywhere there's a Wi-Fi. If we have really great connectivity, do we need phones? Can we just have like a freaking our tablet or whatever we take?
Well, actually, that's what I kind of realized with the Linux phones when I actually looked into them. It's basically a tablet, and then they have a phone feature built into it.
And at that point, you calling somebody on a Wi-Fi, there's a Wi-Fi everywhere in U.S. I think that's what we need to look in, is that we have better connectivity instead of trying to look at the devices, or like we need a better phone. No, we need a better connectivity. And once we have better connectivity, I think whatever device connects to it is a communication hub right there.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't think we need to get like $3,500 phone to $1,000. I think we just need a better connectivity. And whose responsibility? Government's.
Yep.
And if they're gonna,
cut this
you know,
off,
they need to
but-
bring it basically.
Well, you guys get the idea.
Yeah,
It's exactly
I don't
to your
get- I mean,
point, as in,
come on.
well,
here's
back
one
when you're younger,
that-
there's
Different
stuff that's
approach.
$1.
But Kevin-
There's
Yeah.
stuff made in
O'Leary.
USA
Oh,
was
yeah.
10 and 20 bucks.
Mr. Wonderful.
And
I think it's
The
it's
whole
like it's
idea
like,
of today's conversation was just to
drug
get to a
dealer, right?
reciprocal
They give you
playing
free
field,
stuff
a
first.
even playing field.
So, Mr. O'Leary, what if there was a company called WeatherTech? And they produce really nice mats for their car.
I have
Same
them
here.
in my F-150.
All my cars have them.
Yep.
And they woke up one day and they looked on Alibaba and they saw that their products were being sold on Alibaba. And they looked at their shipping, and they never had done any business with Alibaba. And they looked just like the mats that they produced in Illinois, and they even had their name on it, right?
Nothing.
Nothing.
What could they do to stop this theft of their product? And they got nothing for it. What would be their recourse right now?
There is nothing
Yeah.
they can do. You have just told the story
True.
of a
Being
million
wrong.
small
Small and
businesses in
large
America
businesses.
over the last 20 years. They innovate, they create, they're entrepreneurs, they prove their product in the American consumer market at around 5 million in sales. They're knocked off. By whom? China. Very often, the same plants that ran the molds under a relationship they had with the company. A lot of companies went to China 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and put their molds there. And during the day, the company would run the WeatherTech mat, in this example, here theoretically. And then at night, they'd run the knockoff mat. And they would bring it into the market, let me guess, 30% off retail of WeatherTech. And I've seen this happen countless times. And in some cases where the company's very small, they go out of business. And nobody hears that tree falling in the forest. It happens thousands of times. there's such an immense opportunity here to enforce existing laws, but really, at the end of the day, the reason that behemoth company couldn't do anything about it, they have no access to the Chinese courts. They can't resolve the complaint through litigation, as we do here. So my recommendation is, look, if you're a Chinese company and you want to use our courts to litigate your complaint, sorry, not until you open yours. We'd love to work with you, but unless it's a reciprocal play, the whole idea of today's conversation was just to get to a reciprocal playing field, a even playing field. American companies have always been very competitive anywhere on earth when given a chance on a transparent and competitive playing field. That's not the case in China. I mean, we're all saying the same thing here. It's got to get fixed. And finally, here we are with tariffs being the excuse, but now I think she has to come to the table, and I hope it happens. And I'd like to see tomorrow morning 400% tariffs.
400%.
Well, and it's the stealing of the IP, right? It's not just the manufacturing.
And there's no
you can't do
there's no
anything about it.
recourse.
Yep.
So stealing IP is one thing, right? When you say stealing, for them, there's only way it would be stealing is if there's a recourse. They think is their right.
Yeah. Well,
and that's the mentality in China. Start something, they get rewarded if they steal something and build something.
Well, I don't know if you know, Kevin brought it up, but I know because I had conversations with I guess you say other lawyers, because I was one time looking into China and doing some business there, and you know, they advised me like, look, if something gets stolen or whatever, there ain't nothing they can do about it. Even in their court system.
Yeah. So the next time I'll look this up. So about 5 or 6 years ago, was I don't know where it was this podcast where it was a similar story. There was a company in U.S. They built some kind of tape, some sticky tape, something, and their product was it showed up somewhere, and these guys were like, man, you know, we didn't
sell it off,
but they tricked the company somehow to sell in U.S. or do something, and where they were able to take them to the court. So I'll try to look that up next time.
Was it U.S. courts or China courts?
No, U.S.
Well, okay, I see what you mean.
I don't know what they did. So I need to. I don't know exactly what was the trigger. So next time I'll look it up and I'll bring it next time, because it was a great win for U.S. company, but it took them a while and took them a lot of creativity to.
Because
are they ever going to get their money though?
Well, here's the catch. Here's the catch. This is why I learned. You know, work with companies that have a U.S. I guess office here.
Yeah.
That way the court system, like Kevin said, it's all fair. You know.
Yeah.
You know, level playing field. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to go to another country, you don't. You know, a lot of people may not realize this, but not every country follows the same laws or same rules that we do.
Right.
There's other countries where U.S. laws are still, or you can, you know, bring them to a U.S. Courts. But China is one of the things where they say it's a democracy. That there's going to be comments about it. No, it is a democratic. They're not. Yeah. We can put a lipstick on that pig as much we want. It is. They're not. They're not democratic. It is something. Selection they have pre-selected for next 50 years. Who's gonna be whatever. And you know, so it is not. So we're the only democratic as long.
So we already know they aren't going to play by the rules.
They're not going to play by the
and
rules.
To Kevin's point, we need to get them to the table to say either you start playing by the rules or no one's going to play with you.
And what's the point of these world trade organizations or World Health organizations that only people who are going to be penalized who are following the rules. Yep. People who are not following them, there's free for all. What's the point?
What's my motivation? If I got to pay rent and you say you owe me $100 a month and I quit paying and you still keep paying rent,
and people who've been following the rules, if they say, hey, it's not fair, and then everybody cries foul, oh, you can't say that. Well, why not?
Yeah.
Not wrong.
You know, why not? And if we are the victim and we're not allowed to say we're the victim.
Well, and what you saw there is it's not just small businesses that are the victim in America.
well,
And
it's
it's
big.
major corporations too that get ripped off. I mean,
And they put a lot of effort. Why do you think these things are so expensive in the U.S.? One of the reason is because these IPs get stolen. So these companies, they try to make their money in the first 5 years.
and they probably put in a buffer too. They know, hey, we're going to have some drop off and loss because
And,
of this.
and they know their IP, their product gonna be stolen and gonna be copied. The IP is dropped, and time there's the country, whoever, China for instance, they figure out how to make it. So they charge. They're gonna try to all the research and all the development they have done in the product. They're gonna try to recoup that and plus times whatever they think they can make it, because after that they know their product.
So
not gonna sell.
let's do a little, I guess, a comparison: ChatGPT versus DeepSeek.
Yeah.
Right there,
Yeah.
perfect example.
Oh yeah, if you read into some of the stuff, right, that they were saying, that's almost just like a backdoor into ChatGPT.
I
Whether it
wouldn't
is
be
or not,
surprised.
I don't know.
But I mean, honestly, it kind of makes sense. I guess you say you add a little more makeup to that pig, make it a little bit faster, and
That's all it. See, that's the thing. We
But where's all that information going to, though? Sorry to cut you off. That you're inputting, right? Is it going right
I
back there?
said that on the episode second, I believe.
Yep.
I haven't downloaded DeepSeek yet, and I'm
don't
not
do it.
going to.
Yeah.
Yep.
ChatGPT, it may have its limitations. I'm still sticking with it because it is something tomorrow. Let's say 10 years from now, they say, oh, they breached X amount of data, blah blah blah. They still have to answer to U.S. courts.
Yep.
DeepSeek, good luck.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's going to rip all the information off your phone, right? And probably copy your keystrokes and all that.
And once is one of
Who knows?
those malwares are, if they're tied to your email, no
Yeah.
matter every time you're gonna, what do we do nowadays, right? We get a new phone, we copy all the apps, everything from our old phone.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? All the malware and everything is copied too.
Yep.
So it's a chain it's once it's kind of like is affected by it, like any disease, it just keep on going and going till.
So, guys, we're going to get on the last topic, and this is more of a fun one. This is something I saw. And by the way, anybody wants to buy me this for Christmas, I'm all for it.
Hey,
is
I said it first, so I showed you guys that first. So
What do we got? What do we got?
Anything? Let's
Let's go into it.
Unexplainable shit with technology. So Kawasaki, Kawasaki, the motorcycle company, just released their new motorcycle. And let me say this, it's not a motorcycle. Matter of fact, look at this shit. And as you can see, it looks like a motorcycle.
Wow.
But it has 4 legs.
Hey, it got a saddle.
What the hell do you need a motorcycle with 4
And
legs?
it got what they call it for horses for the
And let
the
me just say
feet.
this, you could do way more
It's a
shit
Gucci
with this
saddle.
It's
than
a
you can with
Gucci saddle,
motorcycle.
yeah.
Look at this shit right here. So you telling me they're not getting rid of something? This new robot horse doesn't take gas. It doesn't take batteries either.
What?
It's fueled by hydrogen.
It's
which
hydrogen.
Oh, hydrogen.
It's gonna last way longer than a motorcycle
What?
for whatever they want you to use it for. Yeah, okay. And they're saying this could be controlled the same way you
Are
control
the horses
motorcycle.
protesting?
But they also specify
Their jobs be taken away.
I wonder what they plan on lifting with it.
Yeah, we could
Because
lift,
who's
too.
running up mountains
Really?
Yeah.
with a robotic horse? Now what they're saying is they don't have a price for it out yet, but it's not going to be cheap. So most likely it might be in the $100,000 range and up.
Can you imagine
Will you copy?
going down the street and seeing one of those
just-
things?
Man,
Oh my gosh.
Can we start a little piggy bank and we put some shares in it and
GoFundMe?
let it go fund me? I really need it. Any guys want to sponsor it?
I could see that honestly being useful in some farm applications. And
Oh no! So
basically
again, this
replacing
thing,
a horse.
this thing. I don't know how many of you guys seen a movie 12 Strong.
12 strong. No.
Watch it. It's about 12 U.S. military special forces guys during Afghanistan war. They were the first few landed in there, and they had to work with the local warlords. And when we were doing it, only transportation they had was horses.
Oh yeah. I think I remember hearing about this.
So
movie.
there's actually a memorial for them too, for 12 Strong. But I was like, I think that is one of the first applications is rescue.
Mm-hmm.
remote places rescuing where you can't take 4 wheels or whatever.
Well,
You can remotely
that's
send
what
these.
happened in North Carolina.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Rescue.
that was the only way you get there was by horse.
Oh, with
And-
the floods.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, would you consider this the future of mobility? What you just saw?
I think so.
Yeah, and I think I could see it in certain applications. Yeah, search and
Yeah.
rescue maybe.
Search and
There's-
rescue, and
If I don't have a horse ride, I don't have to stop for food. I don't have to, breaks or potential injuries even.
Yeah, but you still got to refuel it.
no, it's hydrogen, right?
Okay. Yeah, it
Water?
was hydrogen.
That's what they were saying. Hydrogen.
Okay, good.
is
Water?
Like a
Self generators. I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what if it breaks down or whatnot?
Yeah, you could have
I
some
mean,
of those
that's
for sure.
those are
I would
after
trust
fact.
it.
Anyone,
over
I'll
a
let you know.
horse's leg.
I'll test it for you.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's. I could see its purposes. I don't see one, strolling down Woodward Avenue anytime soon.
You'll be surprised.
You'd be surprised.
You'll be surprised.
Oh my gosh.
The Dream Cruise.
I seen
but
horses go down on
I
Woodward
just,
Avenue.
again, certain applications it could definitely.
I think there's this little group called Urban Cowboys, and they have horses in Detroit. So, yeah, you'll be surprised if you see one of those.
Yeah. I don't know.
And it could be like one of the, what was it, the three-wheelers, right? The side-by-sides kind of thing. You have the spiders. That's what they
Yep.
are, the spider. Right, so it's kind of gimmicky, but a lot of people now are.
I mean,
Driving
trails,
those?
right? You going to trail, you going rescue, you going.
Oh, those would be great.
Yeah, you going ski rescuing. I don't know, mountain something. I see so many applications.
I
to
see
have one.
mountains. I definitely see the mountains.
Yeah.
Right?
Driving or riding that thing through a mountain.
Fire season,
Did it
right?
say how fast it went?
During fire season, just carrying the basically the
Supplies
and whatnot.
Sure.
So, how many companies do you think are going to jump on board with that design?
China's already probably got one coming.
Well,
They're photocopying that right now.
Alibaba for 30% off.
They're photocopying right now.
And it could be one of those, too. It's not necessarily a gimmick, but it could be one of those just proving the technologies, seeing what else then can be used in different technologies, right, guys? A
So-
lot of those components are probably thought of from the humanoid
So
robots.
only difference in this between this and the mule that was built by Boston Dynamics like 6-7
Yeah, yeah.
years ago is that one I think it was like engine powered, like
it was
a
a diesel or
gasoline,
something, wasn't
diesel,
it?
whatever,
Yeah.
fuel powered, and this one is like hydrogen powered, and this one a little more fancier looking. But jokes aside, I think they already had application. They used those mules in the military, and so like carrying because they used horses in like some rough trains and whatnot.
And if I recall, they use those basically just for supply carry, so that the
Yeah,
soldiers
supply carry.
didn't
So
have to, and they would just walk
small
next to 'em,
teams,
if I
right?
recall.
When they have
Yeah.
special forces, small teams, they camping out somewhere for like X amount of time or whatever.
Instead of
And-
carrying an 80-pound sack for
Yeah, I mean,
100-degree weather, it's a lot easier.
and
to throw
they have
that.
and in these technologies, and I seen it where they had a hand gestures, and basically your operator had a glove or whatever, and they did this, and mule went down.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. I've been following them for a while. So jokes aside, yeah, it's been around for a while. This is only thing is because this is look more flashy and is powered by they say powered by hydrogen. I don't know how long the hydrogen lasts and whatnot.
Just looking at that, I guess you say, just talking out loud, we brought up the question earlier, should there be some type of regulations on this? You see something like that, should there be? I don't know.
There will be, but
I'm not wearing a helmet.
I'm not either. I'm buying that extra insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have,
But from like a government regulations, I think more so like the other video, whereas there's softwares that tracing back somewhere. I think that's going to be, again, it could be a battle of the future, right?
That too, and I think the biggest thing I think you mentioned a couple of times in the last episode and this one too is what application is being used for. Are they mounting like mini gun on it and let it like, hey, go, somebody remotely shooting freaking somewhere, and this thing is are you using it in that type, or are you using it with a medical
For good
rescue?
uses.
I mean, so the application
All depends on who owns it.
Yeah, who owns it and what application. There's gonna be some evil minds, and they're gonna try to do whatever. So there's gonna be regulations and how to eliminate these things, how to control them. Like they have them with the drones now. They have frequency jammers. They have all different kind of. Or they have. I mean, there's a shotgun always standby, but but there's so. Those countermeasures then gonna be placed in place to regulate these things, and there should be a whole ethical oversight basically to regulate them.
Yeah. Well, I guess kind of going back to the horse. I know you guys rather use that than a horse, but honestly, there's benefits to having horses.
Me too. I'm just but there's a lot of work. Horses are a lot of work.
Yeah. But
this thing you can just put in a garage.
Yeah, whatever.
Let her ride.
Horses are like they're our family had them. They're a lot of work.
Yeah,
especially in the Michigan winter.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all right, gents. It looks like everything. We hit up all the topics.
Good discussion this week.
Yeah. Good. I think we kind of getting the flow off it. Yeah. So
if I guess any of our audience, if there's any topics you want us to hit up next time or any particular questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and if you guys feel like we're kind of, some points, again, these are just our opinions. This is not scripted, not sponsored, none of that. But if you want to sponsor, hey, we're welcome, man. But not scripted. And these are the conversations we had monthly basis. We met up for breakfast, and I think we gonna need to start incorporating little breakfast here. I'm missing some eggs and bacon, and we need to get the little bigger table, and we need to start doing that because
we need to get some more robots on here.
Yeah, that too, and I think we're missing the whole atmosphere, but of bacon smell.
Bacon smell.
A little aroma here. We're gonna, so that's basically it. Anything you see, like Raul said, if you see any conversation, you say what's your guys' opinion on certain topics. We are great with opinions.
All right, and if you guys like today's episode, please don't forget to give us some comments, share, subscribe, and we hope that you join us here next time on the next movie. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.